time ago when we were doing the video on timetable and train orders, a number of modelers raised questions about how a timetable is actually prepared. And so today we'll be visiting with Michel Boucher, and Michel is going to help explain how a timetable is put together and how you can make that timetable in a practical way useful on your own railroad. Now, putting together the timetable for a model railroad, it's necessary to look at the prototype, but it's also necessary to look at a bunch of other constraints.
I had to find a portion of the D&H that I could reasonably incorporate into the layout that I already had, and also that where I could eventually expand the layout or modify the layout to incorporate the D&H. So the first amount of research was get some books on the D&H and find some portion of the D&H that would be reasonable to model in a basement. Because even though you might have a large basement, it's pretty hard to model a major main line, let's say, that goes from Rouse's Point to Albany and incorporate all the major yards in between, like Whitehall and Saratoga, and then get down to Kenwood Yard in Albany in a bungalow basement. I don't care what you say, but there are limits to what you can model. It doesn't fit. So my first inclination, having had previous mainline layouts, which I found was bouncing layouts, you go from one loop to the other, the same trains keep showing up all the time. I said, and it didn't fit really the space, I said, this time I'm going to go look for a branch, okay, of the, but then you look into what you like and don't like. Me, I like iron ore trains or ore trains, and so I like to model unit trains, so that's my first choice, which means that I want to incorporate a large mine somewhere, okay? So where is there a mine on the Delaware and Hudson that I could model? And then I like the paper industry, because they have all kinds of tank cars, the white one, the yellow one, the one, and I like the traffic, and paper is something that Canadians in particular like, and its paper was exported in enormous amounts to the United States from Canada, knowing that the D&H is the bridge line from Canada to the US. I mean, that made sense to have a paper mill on the layout. So looking at everything and looking into the books, I bought the Shaughnessy book at the time it was available, and bought all other mini books that were published and so on, and then I found this Adirondack branch. The town of Corinth, which is the first town on the branch, is a major paper mill, sulfite mill, that was printing paper solely for Time magazine, and it was shipped to New York or the area, printing plants in the New York area or other areas of the U.S. where Time magazine was printing on a weekly basis, if I remember. So there are two of my major ingredients were met. The third issue was, how do I keep my 7 to 8 partners that I've had since I began model railroading in 1984, and some of them are still with me, and some of them have moved on, but a lot of them are still with me from 1986, 88, and so on. And how do I keep these guys busy for 2 hours on a train operation night? One ore train won't do it. One paper train won't do it either. That's only 2 trains. So, okay, once a year they ran the PAs up to North Creek, which is the major town up the line. So that was a tourist train. Maybe I can have a tourist train all the time in the summer, So there's third train. And maybe I can split my freight train, which is, when you read the books, it says there was one train, it was a huge train. Okay, in 2 hours on a Monday night, it's pretty hard to switch a huge train with 1 or 2 operators. So maybe if I split the train in 3, then I can have 6 operators, or at minimum of 3 operators, plus the mine train, that's 4 operators, plus the passenger train, that's 5 operators. And then I read that the Quebec Iron and Titanium up in northern Quebec ran an employee train to take the employees from the town, Point Noir, to the titanium mine up in the wilderness. Oh, I said, I'm right in the wilderness here. How do these employees get to work? They don't all live in Sanford Lake. Some of them must live in North Creek. Some of them must live in Corrine, you know, and some of them might want to have a sort of a commuter train that would take them to work in time for their shift, and they wouldn't have to drive in the snow in the middle of winter in the wall of forest of millions of trees. So let's have a little employee train. So now every shift has an employee train back and forth. That's 4 trains. So now I've pretty well got my full complement. And if I salt this all up with or pepperize it with an extra, bringing a large transformer to the mine from Schenectady, or bringing beams for construction of girders and beams for construction of plant expansions and so on, then I've got a whole slew of extra trains, including maintenance of way trains that you can always, like, we got to do the ballast here and there. You got to fix the bridges once in a while. So
in essence, you've
got an unlimited. I've met my criteria, and then you've got, on top of that, you've got an unlimited amount of trains that you can add on to the schedule to keep everybody busy.
So you've retained the flavor of the prototype, and you've still met your other constraints in this. Now, the timetable, going back to that concept, the timetable then would be used to manage all this, and I assume, Michel, that you put together the timetable with these trains in mind, and to make sure that they would run in your on your railroad in the 2 hours and so on,
Yes,
that you had
exactly,
available for your
exactly.
operation.
So that's where the timetable tool comes in. Well, there's a whole series of tools that come in, okay? So there's a whole process we have to follow to get there. So first you put these concepts down on paper. Okay, what you want to do. So you line up your paper and you say, this is what I'd like to do. Okay, now, usually sometimes it's just a dream, like sometimes it doesn't materialize. But in this case, I was pretty lucky, like the salt and pepper stuff came later, but the basic was there, like right off the bat I could run the unit train, I could run the freight trains. And those were the basics, like.
That's where the research paid off.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so and yeah, exactly. The research gave me the paper plant, the mine, the location, the geography, because now I've got a fantastic national park that I can model in. So the scenic aspect is resolved. I mean, I don't have wall-to-wall buildings, all over the place. Lots of trees, and that's what I wanted. I had a vision of this scene behind us here, right? Like, and this vision only came in, I would say, 5-6 years after the layout was converted, to the NH, and like, and then eventually we got into this area, and then we did this scene, and with the help of actually, when you listed all the people that participated in this, everybody that operates on the layout had something to do with this scene, so that's
now
where
we're going to turn to the practical aspects of putting together a timetable, and the starting point for this is usually the track plan. And Michel, we have your track plan in front of us. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your track plan and the railroad.
We are at Milepost 00, which is the Adirondack branch junction with the main line from Whitehall to Saratoga Springs. And from there, we go up the line to the first town, which is Corrine. Corrine's where the paper mill is. Then we wind ourselves down to, or actually over there would be up to Warrensburg. And Warrensburg was a branch on the branch, if you want. And here it's modeled as a siding, so there's a freight train stops here, drops cars on that siding that are picked up by the mill that's located in Warrensburg.
And this is a dog loop that you built in order to gain some distance between towns?
Yeah, here is to create the time and distance. Okay, like it disappears, it's visible up to here. So all this from Corrine down to this loop, middle of this loop here, it's visible. After that, it disappears. and it comes out again only at the Warrensburg staging. Now, a lot of people would criticize this and say, well, you know, I like to see my layout, you know, I don't see my train anymore. Well, in the age of sound, it's not very important because you know where your train is all the time. All you have to do is press on the horn. And then the second thing is, it does really create a larger or a bigger time and distance, a bigger effect of time and distance, because the train is really not in your eyesight. It's going to appear, it's gone, and it's coming, and then all of a sudden, but it's going in the same direction, eh? You notice I'm coming out in the same direction. I'm always going where? North Creek, which is my direction up the branch to the town of North Creek. So it's a compromise. You create time and distance. I don't believe in seeing the train all the time, especially in the spaghetti type, when you create a spaghetti type track design. And in this case, I had to do this to create a time distance effect, so I eliminated the spaghetti effect by making it disappear. Okay, and I've used the same trick at other places with more or less success, you know, depends. From there, from Warrensburg, we go to North Creek. Here is North Creek, and North Creek is the major, I would say, D&H town, as far as it was the end of the line for a long time before the National Lead Company decided to open up the mine in Tahouse. We're talking at Sanford Lake. So here is there's a small yard, 4 tracks. There's a station, there's a small engine facility to keep the local engine taken care of, with at the time used to be steam, and now it's a diesel, so it's a lot easier. And so there's a big hub of small town activity there, like, you know, there's a dealer of fertilizer, there's a little around this area, there's a right here, these 2 tracks, there's a concrete dealer, there's a propane dealer, everything that would serve a small town, you know, up in the mountains. Okay, from North Creek, now we start really climbing to Tahouse, which is the end of the line. So here we go to Sanford Lake first, this is the village, and from the village you go to the mine at Tahouse. Here there's again a spaghetti effect. Here, and again, it's like 45 feet of track that I've added to create the distance and time again. I wasn't as successful there in hiding everything, but it's a figure 8 really. So you come out and you go up and you go like this and like that, and you're in the figure 8 motion.
So part of this was to gain some elevation, and part of it was to extend the distance of the line. So it takes quite a while to climb up the hill if you follow the timetable instructions, which first you're climbing, so it slows the train down, and you're climbing with a lot of empty hoppers if you want. It's even more interesting when you're going down with all these loaded hoppers, and it models very well the actual, and we'll see, as I could show you a picture, an actual track elevation that goes from North Creek to Tahouse, which was a steep grade, which required, in steam days, required the train to stop on the way down to set the brakes, the retainers on the brakes, and then go down the hill even with 3 locomotives. So now that we're at Sanford Lake's a small town. It's got a, it's right here, so right here on that, okay, and it's a passing siding, and on the D&H actual branch, it's called Stillwater, and I've got a milepost that says Stillwater, and that's where they used to, the only siding between Tahouse and North Creek, and that's where they set the retainers. Okay, so the trains would all stop there, set the retainers. Today we've got diesels have got dynamic brakes. I'm not sure if they operated today whether they would put retainers or not.
or maybe they'd put retainers only on half of the train, and the dynamics would take care of the rest of the weight, you know, to go down the grade. And from there, there's a lumber mill. Then we finally get to the mine, and you can see here Adirondack Park, which is where we're doing our introduction with the bridge going over, and this is Milepost 193 here, which is the entrance to the mine. And here is the yard master's house at Milepost 204, where all trains stop before they get directed into the trackage of the mine, you know, for delivery of products and so on.
You referred on a number of occasions to mileposts, and of course, in order to look at timetables, the concept of distance and time is important. What exactly are you referring to with your mileposts?
The milepost is a what you call a point, a geographical point on the layout that guides the operator as to where he is, and would help him locate himself in relation to the layout to a dispatcher.
And how big are your miles that are on these mileposts?
Yes, I chose to do a very simple thing. Is that 1 foot of the layout is 1 mile. Okay, so you take a tape measure.
We'll do that.
Let's do that. We're going to start at the 193 feet mark. Okay, and then this is a rough calculation, because I've got a curve here, so I've got a curve myself. Hang on there, something like this. Doug's going to help me here. All this, and there I'm 10 feet here, and I'm 11 feet. You know, if I calculate if I include there like this. Okay, so I'm at 11 feet right in front of the yardmaster house. Okay, so as you can see, where there's 11 feet on the mark of the tape, and there's the yardmaster house, and there's the walkway through to the yard, and so on. So all trains stop here to get their marching orders for how they're going to get into the yard, where they're going to go in the yard, and so on, and do their work. Okay, so that's the last point of the layout.
Now this area, Michel, you said was the national park.
Yeah. Oh yes, I don't know where exactly the boundary is for the national park, but it's in the Adirondack Park. Okay, I'm sure it's in the Adirondack Park because
this scene is a little bit more modern than the scene on the other side. When was this built?
this was built in 2004. So I have to wait for the release to get the property here. It's not easy to get the National Forest department to give you open the line in the middle of the national park.
Now we're coming up to the mine. Does the operator of this train normally have to stop anywhere out here? Does he carry on to the yard office?
Well, right now this is the first train of the day. So he knows he's got a clearance. The switchman is there to put his switch in, and he's got a clearance right to the yard office. So he's the first train of the day.
So this train is going to go over to the office where we measure
exactly.
Before.
We're into our 11 feet.
and it's going to stop there.
And then when he stops there, then he figures out his plan for the day. Switch plan for the day. His operations plan for the day. Yeah. He looks at his way bills and looks at the track plan of the plant layout, and usually it's not a junior operator that comes over here. It's like a seasoned guy that has been doing this 2-3 times, and because it can be complex.